Okay, so uh, this this started with my daughter Jana Maya. She is 11. Um, she goes to a school called Pennyroyal Elementary. So I'm gonna try to sum it up just in case we get sabotaged again. So she goes to school. She goes to a school called Pennyroyal Elementary, and basically what has been happening since I'd say about the third week of school is that she's been being bullied. So she the basically the little girl. How it started was they asked her if she wanted to be a part of the group of girls called the Visco Girls, and the Visco Girls they basically do different things to get these colored bands on their arms. So I got this from another student that goes to the school that I knew. I took it to the principal. The principal told me he would get back with me on the matter. He never did. He, in fact, went to the little girls and told them that my daughter said that this is what they were doing. After that, they started to taunt her. They wrote letters about her, wrote notes about her in school. They passed them around the sixth grade. They threatened her. They told her that what they were going to do to her. And he knew all these things. So what I did was initially I sat down with the business associate because I was told that the superintendent was unavailable. Unavailable. I sat down with the business associate, told him, and then I did have multiple meetings with the superintendent as well as the principal. And all these meetings I recorded because I realized from the beginning that no one was going to help me. No one really cared that this was what she was going through. So on a couple weeks before October 3rd, I had a meeting with the superintendent, and the superintendent basically told me that his child had went through bullying his son, and his son got out of it for got out of bullying because he instructed his son to go to school and fight. Um, I at that meeting he told me basically whether my daughter hit the little girl first or she hit her back, she was going to be suspended. So my daughter, fast forward to October 3rd, the little girl slapped my 11-year-old, and my daughter chased her to hit her back. They were met by a teacher, and the teacher told my daughter, "You nigger, why are your people always trying to fight my people?" This was second recess. So by the time I got to school at 8 a.m. the next morning, they had the business associate for the district, the superintendent, the principal, as well as this woman's lawyer, all sitting in the meeting, and they told me that her saying this to my daughter was not a fireable offense, which this is a conversation I recorded as well. At that meeting, what they offered me, the superintendent personally, he offered me to either homeschool my children or to put them in another school in the district. So I opted to homeschool them. The superintendent, which I have emails of, actually did the legwork for me to find homeschools for my children online. And I have emails as well. So after that, I realized homeschool was not working for my family. I mean, me working, being a dental assistant, just trying to get back into work because I lost my job from going up to the school so many times. I couldn't. It didn't work out for my family. So I called back to the superintendent and I asked him if I could put my kids in another school in the district. At that time, he told me that my daughter with a brain injury, she had a tier 2 IEP, and she needed to be brought down to basically they were going to stick her in a classroom, and that's where she would have been all day. It's called a resource room. So I told him that that was not going to work out for me just because my daughter is not, she's not incompetent. She just needs a little extra help. There's nothing literally wrong with her other than she's on an IEP. So I opted to keep her with the tier 2. He told me that they needed to go back to the school that this incident had happened. So they went back to school that Friday. Well, I called a meeting. I let everybody know before my kids went back to school that when I sent them back, they were supposed to be there and safe. So through that whole week, they went back 3 times that week, and I called each day on the hour to make sure my children were okay. So that Friday, which I had not been made aware of, the little girl saw my 8-year old, which has the brain injury. She had the bleeding on the inside and outside of her brain. She saw her in the restroom. She slapped my daughter so hard that she put her handprint on the side of her face. They gave her ice and sent her back to class. Nothing to little girl, nothing happened to her. So when she saw her big sister at lunch, she told her and showed her her face. When she got to the cafeteria. When she went outside, she saw a little girl. She went up to the little girl and asked her, why did she slap her sister? Whatever conversation they had back and forth, it was about 3 or 4 minutes long. And Jana Maya did hit the little girl and they started to fight. Well, the school at that point, instead of suspending my daughter, they called the police. She was actually handcuffed and took to the police station, and they tried to book her there. They did not take her to the detention center, which was beyond me, just because she is 2 months into being 11. She was just 10. How do you book a child at a police station versus taking them to a juvenile detention center? I did not understand that. So when I got to the police station, I asked them, why was my child being held there? He told me, he apologized and he told me that they were taking my daughter right out of there and they were taking her to the detention center. But he assured me that my child never was in listening distance or in vision of an adult. He actually told me it would have been illegal for her to be around any adults or to hear an adult. So when I got my daughter, I asked her, I said, were any adults around you? Because she was set in a cell after they tried to fingerprint her. She said that you can tell her what the man was saying.
A man said, "Let me the f out," and then the police officer said, "Shut the f up." That's what they said.
And so, of course, this scared me so badly. So when we got to court, we had court on the 20th. This incident happened on the 22nd. On the 25th is when we had court. So this child's father showed up to court, and I showed him all the documents because what this child did after these people arrested my daughter, she went on. She took to TikTok, and her friends, the same group of friends, started to write things about her as well as tag her into things. So these posts said, "Ha ha ha! Somebody got arrested, not me." Just still taunting her, still bullying her, which nobody cares. So I took these things to court. I showed her father. Her father at that point told me he wanted nothing to do with the case anymore. He just wanted to back his child up out of it. At that the We just went to court this past Friday, and I found out that the plaintiff now is the resource officer in the school. So instead of having the little girl and her mother on there or her father, it we're now the charges are now being brought against her by the resource officer, which I don't know if that's possible, but that's what's going on. So I'm just trying to bring awareness to the fact that I was not a lax parent. I was not a neglectful parent. I had meetings. I made sure that I screamed it from the rooftop that this was not okay. This is something that's really serious. If she would have hung herself or something like that, something tragic, then what would have happened? I mean, there's a lot of parents that don't see that their child is going through this. So I went and I had meetings. I even knocked on this little girl's mom's house, her door, just because it had just got too much. From adult to adult, I thought that maybe we can have a conversation. Maybe, it starts at home. You could talk to your child and say, hey, this is not okay. But at that particular time, I realized the things that she's doing came from home. So if anybody can help, I will take any type of help at all, any type of help. Period. We're still, like I said, facing assault charges. She has our next court date, March the 9th, and we have to be there at 9 a.m. And I just please keep us in your prayers. Anything. Yes, 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 yes. So I initially started to realize I was being followed a few weeks ago. It was a big F-150. It was a white pickup truck. And when I was coming down the road called Pennyroyal, it's actually by the school, and they had called me to come and pick up some papers. So I was coming down the road, and I'm like, this car is kind of weird. It's really close to me, and it's not moving. So I passed a few roads, and I'm like, it's still not moving. So we come into like it's like an entrance way of a building, of a business. So I'm getting ready to go continue down the street, and what I do is I hurry up and I pull into the parking lot, and I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, wow, like this car, me personally, I'm thinking like it's following me. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just paranoid. I catch my breath. The next thing I know, the pickup truck comes back down the street past me, pull into the same parking lot, and sit on the opposite side of the street. I mean, the opposite side of the parking lot with me. And I mean, it sits there. So what I did to get away from the pickup truck is I waited on cars to come, and I hurried up and jumped out in front of the cars that were coming, so that I could get some time to get away from the pickup truck. So then after that, I didn't see the pickup truck again. But then last Sunday I was going to my mother's house in Cincinnati, and I realized that this all black tinted Mazda, it was following us. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, why this car, I mean, it's kind of lagging behind, but it's still staying with us. I mean, we went to two different highways at this point, and this car is still behind us. So I come to in Cincinnati. If anybody knows, I'm coming traveling down 75. So we went from 675 to 75, and then I was going to continue to 275. But on 75, I realized that it was following us. So I going to 275. I waited until the very last second to jump over to go on to 275. This car crossed the grass to still follow me, and it was just so I was just so amazed because I mean, following, okay, but it didn't cross lines, it went across the grass to still stay with me. That was the scariest thing ever, ever. Yes, please. I mean, you know what though? As much as it's been so violent here right now, like I'm still trying to sit down and have conversations with her just about the fact that none of this is your fault. It's I just I need her. I need for everybody to understand that when she had this fight, it didn't come from a place of I just want to be vicious or I just want to be nasty or demeaning, and that's what these charges say. When you give a 11-year-old assault charges, you say that she is incapable of just being simply suspended for having a fight at 11. Like, that's not normal. And she still wasn't even suspended. So I just actually had to go to court last Thursday for truancy charges. So this school system, not only did they book her for assault and is still trying to